Games, we love games. And in 2025, there were so many games that were released. Blueprints, Hades 2, Expedition 33, Arc Raiders, Meside. Look at all of these games that got released. You might recognize some of them. But the thing is, how do you compare different gaming experiences? I played a lot of games this year, okay? And you could just chuck them all onto a tier list. But inevitably, someone's going to look at a game that you put in A tier and be like, what the heck? That doesn't belong there. Why'd you put Oblivion in the bottom? Borderlands 4 is peak. How do you rank these? Well, we have Jeff Keighley. He wants to categorize them and get really serious on stage and tell you all the 25 categories that deserve your attention.
Join us for the nomination announcement special.
I want to make predictions. Let's start with Game of the Year. A lot of people have just been saying what the front runner is, which is Clair Obscur Expedition 33. This game has overtaken every single game in terms of just AAA and also indie, and it's made by just a very, very small studio of people. My other locks here: Donkey Kong Bonanza, Hollow Knight Silksong, Death Stranding 2, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Ghost of Yotei, and Hades 2. If you're thinking about what goes to 8th and 9th, it's Blueprints, and then Split Fiction. I will explain how we got to these. So why is it these 7? These are very, very peak games, but we need to get ourselves in the mindset of the Game Awards. So who decides what gets nominated? Well, it's these people. All of them, all these journalists, all these publications, they submit 5 games for every single category. Once that's decided, it goes to audience voting. But here's the catch, right? Audience voting only makes up 10% of the vote. So essentially, whatever they pick here, it's pretty much 90% guaranteed that it's not going to change. So knowing that, we can just do the data analysis. Last year, I spent 3 days sampling all of the journalists, and with that data, I was just picking the highest numbers. It's this one. It's FC25.
EA Sports FC 25.
Got it. That's Astrobot. Yeah, got it. Easy. Grand Theft Auto 6. Easy, done. It's going to be Baldur's Gate 3.
Baldur's Gate 3.
Easy. Let me have a look at Frostpunk 2.
Frostpunk 2.
Anyway, let's talk about Stat Collection. There were 21,000 games. I went to Metacritic and I downloaded 19,000 of them. I downloaded 15 gigabytes of data to the point that Metacritic actually just banned me from their site. Out of all of those games, I narrowed it down to 1,280 games. These are games that journalists have been talking about and people have actually left a review on the site. I made a spreadsheet. There is so much data here. I don't know how to get this across in like any meaningful capacity because we've got so many metrics. We can rate it based on Metacritic score. We can base it on Steam score. We can base it on Steam score with enough reviews. And I did this for basically every single category. I also went through a bunch of journalists' publications and I sampled it. And we can see that these are all of the people that mentioned Clair Obscur 33 this year. There's a lot of data. That's the point. For Game of the Year, these are the most notable indicators. So I'm doing Metacritic score, which is just journalists. I'm doing users on just forums, which includes console games. I'm doing the most popular games on Steam. And then I'm also doing most reviewed games. So the games that people are talking about the most. Anyway, this is what you get when you take all 4 of those metrics and then you do a ranking on them and you also rank it with the journalists, okay? That's a lot to take in. I will not be going into that amount of detail again. But for Game of the Year, I just thought it's worthwhile going through. The games that are highlighted in blue are pretty much locked. The ones that are in dark blue, Hades 2 and Split Fiction. These two could be neck and neck. Problem is Split Fiction has kind of lost some of its charm considering it was like an early release. It's either going to be Ghost of Yotei or Hades, I'm pretty sure. And Split Fiction basically comes in 8th. And despite everyone really, really liking Blueprints, especially journalists, it didn't quite make the cut. Being a puzzle game, there's not a lot of casual people playing puzzle games.
Game of
That's my lock, by the way. Ghost of Yotei is higher than Hades, yeah?
Expedition 33 from Sandfall Interactive. Death Stranding 2 on the Beach from Kojima Productions. Donkey Kong Bonanza from Nintendo. Hades 2 from Supergiant Games.
So Hades got it over Yotei.
Silksong,
yeah, and then it'll be KCD 2.
And Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 from Warhorse Studios.
Easy. Yeah. I was fucking right. But I mean, at this point, it almost seems like a no contest. People can't help themselves to the point where people are betting on Game of the Year. So this is just IRL gambling on what is going to win Game of the Year. It's not the nominations, it's just winning, and people are already thinking it's going to be this. And then the second place is Silksong. So if you just have a look at these rankings, this actually really closely aligns the selections I picked. And it's kind of eerie how it's a one-to-one mapping. The weird thing though is some people think GTA 6 is going to win. They're already dumping money into it. I don't understand why, man. That's so weird, right? Because this game is being delayed. It's not coming out until November 2026. It got delayed even more. And it got delayed to the point where GTA 6 is not even eligible for 2026 Game Awards. It's going to be released after that cycle. And if you thought that was silly, Metroid Prime 4 is also being betted for, and the nominees come out tomorrow. And let me tell you, Metroid Prime doesn't come out until December. And I don't understand why people are putting money on this. But I can tell you for certain, Metroid Prime is not going to win. So with that all being said, Shroud is probably pissed. Basically, what he was saying was he doesn't want Expedition 33 to win. There needs to be more multiplayer games. And he said it would be good if there was a category for multiplayer.
I feel like Game of the Year needs to be two different categories. I feel like multiplayer and single player competing doesn't make sense. Because it's so easy for a single player game to win, you know? Dude, the last time a multiplayer game won was 2016.
If you're talking strictly PvP, then yes, you're right.
Isn't it just multiplayer only?
Well, no, because it's It Takes Two, didn't it? It Takes Two.
Okay, bro, that's not multiplayer.
It's multiple players.
Oh,
okay, so you mean PvP? You mean like...
No, I mean multiplayer, man. It's in the fucking name. Sorry.
Don't worry, Shroud, I got you. I got the best multiplayer nominations. Arc Raiders makes the list because it's doing really well, despite what Shroud thinks about Game of the Year. If you look at the most played games, a lot of these are multiplayer games. And if you look at Arc Raiders, it is very popular. And if you compare this with Expedition 33, it has more people in it. But if you look at how many copies have been sold, they're actually just the exact same. Predominantly multiplayer games are the ones that are being played. Battlefield 6 has an 83 on Metacritic, and in fact, there's a lot of people that are really interested in Battlefield 6 because it's been several years since a new Battlefield game. Marvel Rivals technically makes it in, even though it's a December release, and it's not really a high Metacritic score, but journalists just kept talking about it at some point. If I am to get rid of any game here, it would be Marvel Rivals. Mario Kart World, traditionally sometimes they just throw in some local couch co-op game, whether it's It Takes Two, right? And if you think the Mario Kart example is like silly, this is all of the games in past 6 years that have been nominated. Party Animals here, there's also Animal Crossing, and Super Mario Jamboree was one, and also Splatoon. So there's a lot of like goofy games that are just being played. Peak might get in there above one of these two. If any of these fall through, Peak is my last option. What else could actually go in here if we were to drop any of these games? Split Fiction would be one of the ones that just goes in there, even though it's local like couch multiplayer, it has a big chance. And then the other one is actually Monster Hunter Wilds. But again, critics liked Monster Hunter Wilds, but fans didn't. So it's really a toss-up.
Best multiplayer: Arc Raiders, Battlefield 6, Elden Ring Night Rain, Peak, and Split Fiction.
Oh, I'm 4 for 5 there. It was a Mario Kart. Let's talk about games I definitely think are not going to get in there in any capacity. Now, you might be wondering, why isn't Call of Duty on this list? Call of Duty normally makes it. And the thing is we already have Arc Raiders and Battlefield, that there are so many people that are doing nomination locks this year that keep saying Call of Duty should make it in there. And if you look at it, Black Ops 6 got released last year on the 25th of October. So it's not even eligible for this year. You can't even vote for this one. And there was a new game that was released just a few days ago on the 14th of November. But again, the issue is that all the journalists would have already been putting in their ballots for games. So I think this is just going to get completely snubbed. But let's just talk about a few misses this year. Polaris. It was trying to be an extraction shooter game. Mixed reviews. People didn't really respond to this game. Same with Wildgate. It's also another multiplayer game with furry characters in it. Both of these are mixed. Splitgate 2 had a whole publicity stunt during the Summer Games Fest. It's essentially Halo gameplay with portals. It wasn't received well, and people were complaining about the microtransactions. Splitgate has had several release cycles. Splitgate got released in 2019, and then they worked on it for another 2 years, and then they re-released the game 2 years later. And essentially they're doing the exact same thing with this game now. So give it another 2 years. 2027, Splitgate's finally going to be made well. Did you know Among Us 3D came out this year? People just want Among Us, man. Now the thing is it's not going to be voted for, but you can play this today. People are enjoying this. There is a want for whimsy. You know, the big game you should get on is this game, Duck Cove. Duck Cove is the new game that is taking the storm on Steam. In fact, it's actually just one of the highest rated games like on my spreadsheet. For some reason, it had a 300,000 player peak. The new Call of Duty game has 90,000 and Duck Cove's like half of those. Speaking of games that look like mobile games, did you know you can play shooting games on your phone? Destiny Rise, it had 1 million downloads. This is all the Metacritic scores. It's snuck in there. It's also just below Elden Ring. So if you thought Elden Ring Night Rain was bad this year or Pokemon Legends ZA, people are just going to their phone. Anyway, best mobile game. The Game Awards FAQ has this line here. It says, expansion packs, new game seasons, DLCs, remakes, and remasters are all eligible. If we're talking about mobile games, Wuthering Waves and Zenless Zone Zero, just take it hands down. These are two gacha games that literally everyone is interested. Genshin Impact got nominated 3 years in a row, but it seems to have fallen off in some aspects with more and more gacha games getting released every single year. And if you're saying like, what's the new content in this game? I'll show you.
Listen up! If I catch wind of you bullying the mine workers one more time, you're gonna be so cooked! So go eat shit!
So anyway, we have Wolf Daddy as of last month, and you can get it now. But if that isn't for you, then you have Wuthering Waves, which also does the same thing. It does the same cinematic releases.
I don't need this now.
Whoa!
Touch the weakness either.
So essentially, it's your pick between these two tailed freaks. So I have these in red here. These are locked. But if for whatever reason the jury forgets that they are allowed to nominate for expansion packs, these two games will be taken out, and then the rest of them are my picks. You've seen this game. Everyone loves their horse girls, and especially on Twitter. It's been on Twitch. It is one of the highest ranked games on Twitch just this year. If you look at content as well, 2025 also peaked. So it should be eligible. And then after that, I don't know.
For best mobile game, Destiny Rising, Persona 5, The
Wow, I
Phantom
got it
X,
wrong.
Sonic Rumble,
What?
Uma Masume,
Yes, I got that right.
and Wuthering Waves.
I got one. I know, okay. But let's be real. Most people are playing Balatro or Clash on their phones, but these aren't going to get nominated either. Journalists don't know anything about mobile games. You probably don't even know what this mobile game is. But this is Project Sekai. It is basically the Hatsune Miku rhythm game, but it's basically a VN. So you get story, you get these characters, it's all animated. They have custom music for it. They have new and better writing every single year. And then once you've done that, it just goes into Osu gameplay. That is one of them. And then there's also Limbus. There's a bunch of other stuff we can talk about. Who cares? If you can date things on your phone, what about dating everything? We have Games for Impact. Now, let me tell you what Games for Impact entails. Thought-provoking gameplay with a pro-social meaning or message. And these are the locks. Date everything is a bit of a bold choice. I would probably drop that down. Journalists really like this game, but it's also really mixed. So I thought Date Everything was a silly little romance game about flirting with PC dust, but it's actually the best representation of love I've seen in games. Date Everything claims to be a dating sim, but it doesn't love or understand its own genre. I'll do anything for love, but I won't play this. All right, back to ZZZ for you. Okay, let's talk about the rest of these. This is made by the same developers as Life is Strange. Lots of people like Don't Nod. So it just automatically gets there. It's also another French studio. So good year for French published games. And journalists that have talked about this is GameSpot, Rolling Stone, Games Radar, NPR, The Guardian. You need to remember, The Guardian, a newspaper publication, has a vote normally in the Game Awards. So if they're talking about this game, I wouldn't be shocked if it gets in. Now, I need to talk about this game here. You might be like, what is this game? I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation, but I think it's Despelote. It is a soccer football game based around Ecuador, and journalists absolutely adore this game. So much so that I actually remember seeing this last year before it was even released. And if you look at this, this is an article that was written back in 2023. Journalists have just been on this very, very early. Slice of life soccer game for everyone hits PS5 in 2024. Despelote might be one of the best games ever about childhood. Even the news publications are posting about this. I don't know why this one gripped the journalists so much, but it has a surprising amount of mentions. Wonderstop is just above this though. So we need to talk about Wonderstop. I think Wonderstop's going to get snubbed for a lot of categories. It is a 50-50 whether Wonderstop gets nominated, but it is one of the Annapurna games. The other Annapurna game is To a T. It's just a charming, colorful game. It's made by the same developer as Katamari. So there's that. So they're all the games for Impact. So it's going to be those four, and then it's going to be one of the Annapurna games, probably.
Games for Impact. Consume Me. Despelote.
Yeah, okay,
Lost
that one makes
Records,
sense.
Bloom and
Yeah, okay, I
Rage,
got that one.
South of Midnight.
Oh,
and
I should have known.
Wonderstop.
Wonderstop got in there! No way! So with so many good games released within the year, how do you decide what deserves the nomination slot? Any game released after November 22nd is eligible for the Game Award. And because of that, Indiana Jones was released really, really, really late. In fact, there were so many journalists that were complaining about this. Indiana Jones would have won Game of the Year contender if not for the timing. Indiana Jones may have arrived too late for many award ceremonies, but it's definitely one of the best games of 2024 regardless. Indiana Jones and the Great Circles, Euros Gamer, Game of 2024, Wordly. Journalists love talking about the games that they love, to the point where if I just go through and I just sample every single journalist, we get a pretty good idea of what they are interested in. Because remember, they make up 90% of the vote. Tomorrow when the nominees come out and you put your vote in, that's only 10%. So if Claire Obscure Expedition 33 gets 90 out of the 100 votes, it doesn't matter what you vote for. It is already locked. And as much as Shroud says that he wants Arc Raiders to be Game of the Year, it's not decided by him at all. It's not decided by any of us. It's decided by those journalists. And it got to the point where people are even like glazing Troy Baker for his performance in The Great Circle. They're like, well, it should have won a voice acting award. Indiana Jones and The Great Circle is a Game of the Year frontrunner at the DICE Awards. And if you look at this was posted in January 10th. People were very, very confident that there were not going to be any other good games this year, which is crazy. And if you look at the Golden Joystick Awards, which is a different award show, the nominations for these already came out, and Indiana Jones and The Great Circle's on that. Journalists really, really, really want you to remember that Indiana Jones was a game that came out last year. Do you remember this came out? Hollow Knight Silksong may have overshadowed 2025's best game expansion. Did you know that Indiana Jones had a DLC this year? If it was released a couple days before Game Awards 2024 took place, it would have gotten nominated for that. Whatever. Let's talk about movies. Here's a bunch of movies that got released this year. If we're being real, Minecraft's the one that's probably going to win it. I don't know why this is a category that exists in the Game Awards. I don't really care too much. They wouldn't dare let Minecraft win. You don't think?
Best adaptation. A Minecraft movie.
Okay, I got that.
Devil May Cry.
Yeah, I got
Splinter
that.
Cell
I didn't get
Deathwatch,
that.
The Last of Us Season 2.
I think I got that.
And Until Dawn.
That was on my list, but I don't think I did that. People approached Blueprints, this puzzle game that came out this year, and said, hey, do you think you want to make a movie adaptation to this? And Tonda Ross said no. No, it's a standalone project. Get lost that people are looking to make games into movies. And Death Stranding actually got an announcement for this, which is insane. So GG Kojima finally making movies. Also, there was an announcement for Overcooked. Weirdly enough, that's another game that I have on my desk right here. Overcooked, here! Imagine that as an A24 Netflix adaptation. Best voice and performance. Too Long Didn't Read. Troy Baker and Indiana Jones is going to get picked. Jennifer English in Expedition 33. There's a lot of like other people here that I do have written down, but like, there's too many. Okay, what's the first category?
Best performance, the nominees are...
Oh!
Ben Starr,
Playmaker!
Claire Obscure Expedition 33.
That wasn't on my list,
Charlie
I think.
Cox for Claire
Neither
Obscure
was that.
Expedition 33. Erika Ishii for Ghost of Yote.
That might have been on my
Jennifer
spreadsheet.
English for Claire Obscure
I did say that
Expedition
yesterday.
33.
That was on my
Roland
picks.
Sukato for Silent Hill F. And Troy Baker.
Oh, there it is.
Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
Okay, I got 2. Best fighting games is also just another really, really clear lock because these are the only fighting games that like came out this year. And the one that's going to win is going to be Fatal Fury, City of Wolves, or it's going to be Virtua Fighter. Mortal Kombat is like a wild addition that I saw a few journalists point this out. Last year was stacked. Last year had all the big releases. It had Tekken and it even had like Grand Blue Fantasy. But if we're being real, the best fighting game that came out this year that literally isn't eligible and is not going to be voted for is this game, 2XKO. It's not eligible because it's not fully released. This is the League of Legends fighting game. But if it could be nominated, that one would just sweep.
Best fighting game, 2XKO. Capcom Fighting Collection 2. Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves. Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection. And Virtua Fighter 5.
Holy shit, I got 4 for 5 that, but 2XKO shouldn't have been nominated. I can't believe I got that so close. So let's talk about best narrative. This is probably one of the most competitive categories, and selecting a top 5 here is actually just like extremely difficult. Claire Obscure, Expedition 33 goes without saying. Ghost of Yote, a lot of people are actually responding to it very well. Critics just really, really like this. Hades 2, Silent Hill, and then also the 100-Line Defense. Dispatch is a newly released game, so it's hard to say whether the recency bias is gonna like go in there. I'm not sure about Death Stranding, so everything in here in orange is the ones that I'm locking in, but I could see a world where Death Stranding and Dispatch make it in. Dispatch has already sold 1 million copies, and Ghost of Yote sold 3.3, which is actually kind of impressive just for a console exclusive game. So I would feel crazy not including Ghost of Yote. These are past winners. All of these games have some sort of sequel this year. You have Ghost of Tsushima, you have Death Stranding. It Takes Two, you can think of Split Fiction as being the sequel. Silent Hill 2, the Silent Hill games traditionally like just do well. We need to talk about the reason why I picked the 100-Line Defense Academy, because you might just be like, oh, what is this game? Just put Death Stranding or Dispatch there. Journalists are saying this is one of their favorite games that they've played this year. It has hundreds of endings, right? It's a really, really big game. I'm not kidding. It's got an 85 on Metacritic, and it's an improvement over their last game. You might not recognize this game, but you might recognize it from these 2 games here. You've definitely seen the bear on the side, and the Nonary games is a game that I've also played on stream. They're the locks for those. Dispatch, I feel like, is getting a bit snubbed here. If anything, I think the game that's going to get pulled from this is probably Split Fiction.
Best narrative, Claire Obscure Expedition 33.
Yeah.
Death Stranding 2.
Yeah.
On the Beach.
Okay,
Ghost
that
of
was
Yote,
not
Kingdom
a
Come
lot.
Deliverance 2,
Yeah,
and
I didn't do that one.
Silent Hill F.
Okay, I did that one. Anyway, action adventure I find actually kind of hard to nail down. It's basically combining combat with traversal, and sometimes they have puzzle solving in it. These are the 5. Claire Obscure, Donkey Kong is basically the Ash Robot equivalent of last year's nomination. Death Stranding, Indiana Jones is just what the journalists are trying to push. And Split Fiction, if you look at prior nominees, you have Stray, Tunic, and Ori and the Blind Forest. Typically they have some sort of like technical Marvel game in there, and Split Fiction did a lot of like interesting mini game. I think it makes sense that Split Fiction would just be in there. Same 5 games. Yeah, the only difference is that Indiana Jones is put in, just because the journalists really like it.
The best action adventure game, Death Stranding 2 On the Beach.
Okay,
Ghost
yeah.
of Yote.
Okay.
Hollow Knight Silk Song. Indiana
Got that
Jones
wrong.
and the Great Circle. And Split Fiction.
Yes, man. Metal Gear Solid Delta had a remake this year. I don't know how the jury is in terms of remakes, but if any game is going to surpass any of the nominees, probably going to be this one. These are all the games that just fit action adventure. I believe this is Steam sorting. There is a surprising game here, and it always comes back to some sort of furry game. And there's only one journalist that has mentioned this, which is like so surprising to me. It looks like it has like so much character in it. Let's talk about best RPG. This basically is the exact same stuff that we've been talking about. A lot of these categories just blend into each other, so I'm not going to belabor it, but I think Avowed makes more sense here. and then Elden Ring Night Rain will probably just make it here. There's not really that many RPGs that came out. If anything, Clair Obscur is just gonna like take it. And then Xenoblade Chronicles is a remake. I don't know if it should even be allowed, but like if it doesn't get nominated, I have no idea. Wuchang Fallen Feathers. This is one game that's just been snubbed from like every single conversation. If we just look at the ratings here, Monster Hunter Wilds and Wuchang Fallen Feathers, they both have lower Metacritic scores than Everhood 2, which I played this year, and Everhood 2 has insane music, it has fun gameplay, but the story absolutely irks me. I don't understand how they're both worse than Everhood 2. I mean, if Everhood 2 is going to be even a talking point to RPGs, these two games should be talked about as well, because Deltarune Chapter 3 and 4 came out, and also Look Outside. These are just two better games that are actually at the top. I don't know what else you put in there.
Best role-playing game, Avowed. Clair Obscur Expedition 33.
I got two
Kingdom
of those.
Come Deliverance
I got
2.
3.
Monster Hunter Wilds.
4.
And The Outer Worlds 2.
I should have known! I got 4 out of 5 for that. Okay, so best action games. If you look at these, this was my original pick, but I think I was completely wrong. Avowed is more of an RPG game, and Battlefield 6 is like a shooter game, and shooting has already been in there. So I basically took these out, but it's really confusing because a lot of the tags and what our journalists were talking about were kind of leading towards these games. Silksong's first, then Kingdom Come Deliverance. They just love this. Monster Hunter Wilds, which I will just not understand why that's so high. And then you can see you got your Doom, you got your Borderlands, you have Battlefield, but I don't think you're gonna get that. This is based on Steam review. There's like Kingdom Come Deliverance, and then after Kingdom Come Deliverance, there's the first Berserker. It's actually higher than Silksong in terms of rating, which is bizarre, but this is just going off the data. And then you have Elden Ring Night Rain and Doom. So revising the list, the one in red is there purely because some journalists were pushing it really, really, really hard. In his article, he had, "I'm exhausted after playing the first Berserker. My hands ache, my brain is fried, and I often had to step away in frustration. It's undoubtedly one of the hardest games I've ever played, but I would encourage everyone to play it." Doom is there as a historical pick. Silksong should make enough sense. Same with Kingdom Come Deliverance, they're just high up. Hades is also a historical pick. And then Monster Hunter Wilds journalists just love. So that's basically it. There's a few others, like there's Like a Dragon. There's also Ninja Gaiden 4. I don't think we're going to see those either.
Best action game, Battlefield 6. Doom the Dark Ages. Hades 2, Ninja Gaiden 4,
What?
and
I should have
Shinobi
known that.
Art.
I want to take some time to just talk about games that aren't really going to be seen. This doesn't really fit into any categories. Digimon Storytime Stranger. It's 22nd on my spreadsheet if you sort by Steam ratio for games that have more than 4,000 reviews. It's a 93% and it has a 79 on Metacritic. People really, really fucking love this game. Speaking about VN games, the non-existence of You and Me is also just really, really high. It's right below Abiotic Factor as well. It's got a 96% ratio. It is just like one of those like hidden gems. Abiotic Factor is really popular this year. I don't think it's going to get any votes for anything. And then if you look just at all the raw stats, you can see there's a few indie games here. That Look Outside is one of those like RPG games that I was just talking about then, and then it's Miside. And I just got to point out, I've been talking about Miside all year. Okay, if you're just talking about TGA, you know which game I feel like is going to get like shafted is Miside. I will be saying this all year. I really like Miside. Miside is fantastic. You really want Miside to win. I think Miside's good. It's just no one's going to talk about it because no one ever nominates horror games except Silent Hill. I'm going to crash out if Miside doesn't win Indie Game of the Year this year. And you know what? It's not going to. But yeah, my Indie Game of the Year for this year is Miside. And I couldn't believe how locked in I was to one of the top games. But the more impressive thing is, I didn't know about Look Outside at all. And there's one content creator that actually called this out before I even saw it.
This music reminds me of Look Outside, which, by the way, is probably the game of the year, by the way. I played it off stream, and I'm sorry, it was an unbelievable experience. Game of the year. If you haven't played Look Outside, go get it right now.
Germa's also just locked in here, and he hasn't looked at like any of the data. He just knows. And the thing is if you're looking at all of these games as well, they all fall under horror. And so horror just like gets snubbed a lot of the time. We're not going to see a horror category in the Game Awards, but Polygon was talking about horror games, and these are some of the horror games that they just mentioned. But even then, they're just missing some of like the more notable horror games. So these are the top horror games for this year. There's not going to be a category for it, but I just want to point out that in the indie space, These games, really, really good. Other games that are out this year that just aren't going to get any recognition is this one. This one's like really popular. It's interesting how this took over content creator space. You also just have like a bunch of like cute games, which I'm not going to get around to. So like Duck Detective looks interesting. You have a game like this, which is the seat taken? There's a lot of cozy games. This is Tiny Bookshop. If you did top 5 cozy experience games, these would be the ones. Easy Delivery Code basically took the Death Stranding mechanic and then just made it low poly. Mega Bonk is also just like really popular as well, right? And then you have Power Wash. It could make it under the simulation, but I don't think it will. You also have The Keeper, which is a Double Fine game. It's basically a modern point and click adventure game. There's so many games that are just popular. And there is one category under TGA, which is audience pick. Basically, everyone can nominate what games they think is the best for the year. I'm not even going to try because there's just way too many games. All right, let's talk about best score in music. Best score in music. Expedition 33 is just going to take it. Deltarune has good music. Doom is a historical pick, always gets there. And then Mario Kart. Let's take a listen to some of these. Now, one song I personally like. Basically, my reasoning behind these picks here is I'm just going for like high viewed songs. Like, listen to that. It's so cool. Great melodies, man. And I mean, like, Undertale music has always just overtaken the internet. So it'd be crazy to think that this wouldn't get nominated. Yeah, so Doom 2016 is like one that received a lot of awards. If we look at Mario is like not even fair. I think it was like 300 tracks. And I mean, it's just your typical Nintendo music. These are the picks. I was basically going off view count. And then South of Midnight is just a journalist pick. So if we kind of look at these, Mario Kart, 300 plus tracks. It's an insane amount of music. There's no way that like I can listen to all the music. So there's 1,000 games I have to go through in terms of data analysis. If you think about it, you have to play 4 games a day, which no journalist is doing. This is why you have to aggregate stuff. But for whatever reason, all these journalists keep mentioning South of Midnight. I was like, what is happening, man? There's like a page here where it's like, yep, South of Midnight should be a midnight walk. And I'm like, why these ones? And this is when I start realizing music is very subjective to the point where it's like, how do you even do this? There's no data that I can go off because it's just mood based. One of my personal favorites here is just Wonderstop. C418 made this. Weirdly enough, this was quite tepid for fans. Reading forum posts and stuff, they were saying, yeah, I mean, like, it's well made, but it sounds like he made it for a video game. He didn't really make his signature sound. And I was like, what? It starts becoming like very, very subjective to the point where I realized I have no idea what I'm talking about, but neither does the Grammys. They just said, here are the best music from video games. Yesterday, one of the worst errors that I made during my predictions, I pointed to this screenshot and said, what are the Grammys doing? Now my outrage was correctly placed, but this is not the Grammys nomination list here. It's actually on my next slide. I just read the wrong slide, and these were the ones that got nominated at the Grammys. So it's Avatar, Helldivers 2, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which of course, man, I kept talking about how journalists have really loved pushing this one yesterday. Then Star Wars, and then Sword of the Sea. And this was like the only pick that wasn't like movie related. I just messed up. Still, my outrage was correctly placed and my conclusion was the same, which was Sword of the Sea? These are none of the music that I just mentioned. Zero. The only 2 I know here is Everhood 2 and Sword of the Sea. And this actually caused a lot of controversy because where is Clair Obscur? It got no nomination. So anyway, screw it. I gotta revise my thing. My guesses are wrong. Here's the new list. I think it's gonna be Expedition 33, Silksong, Doom, Sword of the Sea, Death Stranding. Fuck it. They're the top music. Because at this point, no one knows, man. And I think Adam just mentioned this. There's video game charts, which I was browsing on a train for days. And if I go through this, half of this list doesn't make any sense either. But notice South Midnight is there again. So like maybe I'm underestimating South Midnight, but it's like so weird. It's like, do I pick Donkey Kong? Do I pick Ghost of Yote? Because here's the thing, people really appreciate realism in their music. There's a lot of like people saying Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has good realistic music, but it's a lot of orchestral stuff. I just don't know. That's the list.
For best score in music, Christopher Larkin for Hollow Knight Silksong, Darren Korb for Hades 2, Lorian Testar for Clair Obscur Expedition 33, Toma Otoa for Ghost of Yote, and
the realism
Woodkid
pick there.
and Ludwig Forsell for Death Stranding 2 on the beach.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about best audio design, something that I can't actually wrap my head around. Last year, it was Astrobot, Call of Duty, Black Ops 6, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and then it was Hellblade 2, Silent Hill 2. Other historical picks in the past is Doom, Death Stranding, Silent Hill, and Ghost of Yote. And you might be wondering, like, why is it like Silent Hill? Why is it Death Stranding? And these are like your realism picks. When you look at Silent Hill F, this is just some random tweet. They were just like, oh my God, sound design so good. Came across one article from a journalist that's like, do you need a gaming headset for Silent Hill F? No, but you won't catch me playing without these headsets on. No, sound design's really good in this game. Listen. Now, we're going to talk about guns. Here's the thing, right? Journalists just love gun noises. Don't know why. Sound design in guns is actually a lot more complicated than you would give it credit for. And I actually really like sound design stuff. I actually did sound design a little bit at uni.
But usually guns can be broken down into 4 audio components: the close layer, a mechanical layer, a sub-bass layer, and a distant layer or tail.
And so he just goes on about like, if you record like a real gun noise, it sounds awful compared to like what they do in games as well. Anyway, so the point is, typically they pick Call of Duty, but if you're just looking at guns in general, I just picked Battlefield 6 because that's just the one being talked about. But honestly, it could be any other gun game. There's going to be a gun game. Silksong has actually impressive sound design. This is what I actually think when I think sound design. A lot of games are really, really fun when they just like have like sort of intricate noises and stuff. Astrobot was an example of that, where every single interactable just made noise. Even your controller was making noise. You like moved the door, and as it moved the door, your controller would just be vibrating and doing like controller exclusive sound. It was very similar to what the Wii remotes did. And so with this, some of the journalists are already saying, I can't get enough of Hollow Knight Silksong bead noises. Every single time it drops, it's like, it's basically just guns, or it's just intricate sound design, or it's realism. That's basically this category in a nutshell.
Best audio design,
Battlefield
6.
Yes!
Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Death Stranding 2 on the beach,
I can see that.
Ghost of Yote, and Silent Hill F.
I think I got that pretty good. I almost just got that like on the head. Debut indie. I love indie games. So debut indie game means that it needs to be the first time that this developer has released a game. Now, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is technically an indie studio and is the first time they've released a game, but people keep debating whether it's AA or whether it's indie, and so I'm very unsure where to put it. But like, if it does classify for indie, it just has like an instant lock. Blueprints is going to get nominated. Despelote, I've already talked about. Journalists love that. It's just going to get in there. Anton Blast is the Pizza Tower equivalent of the game. And then Look Outside is actually just like the first time that developer has released a horror game. If Clair Obscur gets dropped off the list, I have to pick out of one of these 3. Peak is an interesting one because it's a studio that's merged. So it's Aggro, Crab, and Landfall Games. So think Another Crab's Treasure and then Totally Accurate Battle Simulator. Those 2 studios came together and then they made Peak. One that I've missed here, if I was to revise this list, is Dispatch. And it's already sold like over 1 million copies. Technically, this could sneak in there as well.
Best debut indie game, Blueprints.
Okay, yeah.
Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Despelote.
Yeah, 3 for 3.
Dispatch,
Okay, I should have put that on my list. Mega Bonk. Let's talk about most anticipated games. GTA 6 won last year, but there's nothing stopping a game from being nominated for most anticipated over and over and over again. We saw this with the next Zelda sequel. Got nominated a few times in the Game Awards before they even knew what the name of the game was. Black Myth is having another game. Resident Evil Requiem is probably the front runner outside of GTA 6, I would say. A lot of people are interested in the new Resident Evil game to release, especially from Summer's Games Fest. Also, The Witcher. Subnautica 2 would be on here without all the legal drama. Yeah. Okay, what's anticipated? GTA 6.
007 First Light. Grand Theft Auto
Okay, I got
6,
that.
Marvel's
I
Wolverine,
did not write that
Resident
down. Okay, I
Evil
wrote that
Requiem,
down.
and The Witcher 4.
I wrote that down, so I got 3 for 5. Slay the Spire 2 is coming out next year. I think that's really, really interesting. The one game that's coming out next year that I'm very, very interested in is Beast of Reincarnate. And the most impressive part about it, to me, is that this is a Game Freak made game. So, Pokemon? And they're doing like 3D environments and stuff. It's so bizarre. It's crazy that they're actually like putting effort into their like art creation. The advertising this year for Pokemon ZA was not like well met.
You ready, gang? Sure am.
You ready to go? Sure I am. Wow, my favorite family game. Anyway, best family games. So typically these games are 10 plus. Sometimes they can be 12, but you're not gonna get anything over that. I have Sonic and Mario Kart against each other. Lego Party is like the Mario Jamboree pick. Donkey Kong is your Nintendo slot that's like gonna get in there. And then Hello Kitty Island Adventure is actually a really, really high rated Steam game. So I think it's just going to be these 5. If we were to add anything else on here that I think might be snubbed, Pete could probably make it onto this list. And Lego Voyages. Lego Voyages is the Annapurna game that is like a co-op game. Think like Split Fiction. The thing is It Takes Two got nominated in a prior year. The reason Split Fiction's not on here is that it's 16 plus. It Takes Two was 12 plus. And that was pushing it. It'll be interesting to see if they skirt the line on that one.
Best family game, Donkey Kong Bonanza,
Okay, yeah, we
Lego
got that.
Party,
I got
Lego
that.
Voyagers,
Ah,
Mario
I did
Kart
say that.
World,
Okay, we got
Sonic
that.
Racing
We got that.
Crossing Worlds, and
Hello Kitty?
Split Fiction.
16 plus game, by the way, Jeff, nearly. Sports games. These are the picks. I don't think I need to explain these, like in any capacity. I literally went to my spreadsheet. I looked at the tags. These are all the sports and racing games. You might wonder why Mario and Sonic aren't there, and it's because even though it says racing, they like their realism racing games. And I tried to do a fine spread of them. The ones that are in orange are locked just because they're either sequels to last year's games and journalists have talked about them. The only new one here is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4. Sometimes that gets nominated, but it's been a while. No Tokyo Extreme Racer? No. I did see it, but these are the 5. You can see Tokyo Extreme Racers at the bottom. No critics saw it. Steam saw it. Critics haven't. Just doesn't fit into the category. They don't care.
Best sports racing game, EA Sports FC 26,
I got that one.
F1 25, Mario Kart World, Rematch.
Oh, I had that on my
Sonic
list.
Racing Crossroads.
Oh, that's the first time they've ever done that. I got that one really wrong. Best VR game, same thing. These are the top rated VR games. There's not much to add in terms of this, especially when journalists don't even know how to play VR games. There's not a lot of people talking about VR games. Yeah, I mean, we can look at these real quick. So the Midnight Walk, very interesting. Apparently you can play it in VR, but it also just has like its single player. You have Arcane Age. There's not much I can add to this, right? Out of the 21,000 games that got released last year, I got that down to 729 VR releases. I probably missed some. I've scrapped a lot just due to Metacritic, but I have seen them. I did go through a lot of them. We're not very spoiled for choice.
For best VR AR game, Alien Rogue Incursion,
What,
Arcane
really?
Age, Ghost Town, Marvel's
Okay, I got
Deadpool
Ghost Town.
VR,
What?
and The Midnight Walk.
Okay, I got 2. That's simulation and strategy game. So you get a lot of Anno, XCOM, City Skylines. You get Fire Emblem. You get RTS games like Age of Empires. One year they picked Inscription. Civilization was pretty low. Anything below an 80 Metacritic is normally considered bad. You might notice that one of the games that I was talking about in the last category, the 100-Line Defense, it's also a tactics-based game. Final Fantasy Tactics, they love their Final Fantasy games. And then, I don't know why, but people keep talking about 2 Point Museum. And then it's a toss-up between these two.
The best sim strategy game, The Alters, Final Fantasy Tactics, Evilise
Okay, we got Final Fantasy Tactics.
Jurassic World Evolution 3, Sid Meier's Civilization
Okay, we got Sid
7,
Meier's Easy Lock.
Tempest Rising,
Yeah.
and 2 Point Museum.
So I got 3 out of 6. Anyway, let's talk about best art direction. These were last year's winners. So you had Astrobot. Look at the art, right? They had so many different worlds. Easy Nintendo pick. You had Elden Ring. You're on a horse! Black Myth Wukong. You have your anime game. You got your indie game. These are kind of the slots here. Now, if you look at Ghost of Yotei, you're also on a horse. Easy pick. Environment. It's done. It's so locked in, and journalists have just like, it's the most pretty game that I've played. Oh my god, sometimes I just walk around and I immerse myself in the environment. Donkey Kong is the Astrobot pick. I don't know what else to say. These are the picks. The first three are pretty obvious, I would say. Clair Obscur undoubtedly has incredible environments. Split Fiction, it's just a bunch of minigames and you're moving and you're moving and you're moving sort of thing. I'm willing to take this one out in terms of a different game, and I'll show you the alternative games, but this one I'm pretty unconfident about. And then this one here, Midnight Walk. I didn't understand why journalists keep picking this game, but I was trying to see which indie game would get picked, and it seems like they're gunning for this one. And it's basically because it's claymation. They just sculpted everything. So they basically modeled everything, scanned it, and then put it into the game, which is an insane amount of effort for a game. And we actually saw this the year prior with Harrod Halibut. So anyway, potential Death Stranding. I feel like Death Stranding should be in there. I don't really know how else to put it in there, but it strikes the realism. Silksong, it feels ridiculous for me not to put Silksong in there. And I'm not showing you more than the promotional stuff, but I mean, they're absolutely gorgeous. And it's more well-refined than like Hollow Knight. Hades got nominated in this category as well, and Hades' environment also looks gorgeous. It should come back down to the fact that Death Stranding, Hades, and this is missing. It's really easy to overlook Death Stranding, but they love Death Stranding.
Welcome to the nominee announcement. For Best Narrative, the nominees are Death Stranding. Best Art Direction, Death Stranding. Best Score and Music, Death Stranding. Best Audio Design, Death Stranding. In the genre of Best Action Adventure Game, Death Stranding. Game of the Year, Death Stranding.
Something's gone terribly wrong here in my Best Art Direction, because there's a lot of conflicting things. A lot of these games on the right here were nominated for Best Art Direction in their relative years, but they've all had sequels at similar times, where it's like, what the hell do you pick? And it's to the point where I'm like, maybe Donkey Kong comes out, maybe Split Fiction comes out. You put in like Death Stranding, you put in Silksong, but it's hard.
Best Art Direction, Clair Obscur, Expedition 33.
Okay.
Death Stranding 2,
okay, I got that wrong.
Ghost of Yotei,
okay.
Hades 2,
okay.
and Hollow Knight Silksong.
Oh, I should have known that. Let's do Best Game Direction. So these are all of the prior nominees for like the last like 6 years. A lot of these games just did something very, very unique for its time. So you had Astrobot, lots of environments and stuff. Balatro, new indie game, sensation hit. You have Elden Ring, Final Fantasy often gets in there. Tears of the Kingdom, open world. Stray is interesting. It Takes Two was very new for the time, and especially for like couch co-op. And then if you look at the year before that, Death Stranding won Best Game Direction against Outer Wilds. And Outer Wilds, there's no game like Outer Wilds. But you gotta remember, these are games that are doing something new for their particular year. I think Blueprints has a chance to actually get on this, purely because they blended puzzle elements with roguelike. So Blueprints already had like 2 million players worldwide. If you look at how many like copies it sold, The Witness is like a similar puzzle game that came out that sold like 100k copies in the first week. That's really comparable to Blueprints. If we just do these side by side, this has 1.2 million. And then you look at Blueprints and it's already sold like 500,000 as well. So it kind of makes sense to like compare Blueprints as being like a notable puzzle game, because when most people think puzzle games, it's like Portal, Talos, Witness. And it was made for like, what, 8 years as well. Like absolutely insane. Split Fiction I have there. There's this trend of really, really focusing on modeling and like how we develop the game. And it's like almost like they want to advertise like all their assets and models. Stray got nominated one year and they're like, look at this. This was like the innovative thing that they did. We put a bunch of trackers onto a cat and then we put it into the game. So the other picks here are literally like similar to this. It's like, look at this like voice actress. We put them in the game. But the thing is like, you take a look at something like Death Stranding, they do a similar thing. This is like the mocap, but it's like kind of amusing, like watching some of this, right? I feel like the journalists are just going to be looking at this. Also, look at this like blue screen like pizza that he's like eating. So this is Death Stranding 2 for you. So I think it's a pretty safe bet that this is going to be in there. With that being said, I think Clair Obscur kind of just eclipses a lot of this work. So that's best game direction. Clair Obscur is like the only like path block in there. I feel like Blueprints should be higher. They're like the 6 front runners.
Best game direction. Clair Obscur,
okay,
Expedition 33. Death Stranding 2 On the Beach. Ghost of Yote.
Got that?
Hades 2. And
Didn't
Split
get that.
Fiction.
I got 4 there. Nice. Best independent game. Independent games is like a bloodbath. Now the 2 in red, these 2 should just like take it out unless jury has a problem with it. And if the jury has a problem with it, it's the next 5. Clair Obscur, some people are saying it's AA, and then Deltarune, there's the argument of like it's not fully released. But Blueprints, obviously gonna get nominated. I haven't talked much about Blueprints for this entire stream, but I sunk 200 hours into Blueprints. It has an interesting way of just pulling you into the world. The puzzles, as you're solving them, are very, very satisfying. I think it's a very good game for the first 10 hours, which is what a lot of the journalists played. Hades 2, I can see why this one would get nominated again. I'd be shocked if it doesn't. It's so interesting how there's just a lot of sequels this year. Silksong, just like highly anticipated. It was so massive, especially here in Australia.
Gamers around the world have been excitedly awaiting the release of a new game from a tiny outfit here in Australia.
I love that he starts with gamers. I feel silly picking Peak, but Peak did make like a splash in there. The ones that I think are snubbed, Loophole, very good puzzle game, but it doesn't really stand up to Blueprints. Easy Delivery Co. It's just Death Stranding delivery mechanics light. Me-Side really should be on here, but it just won't be. Baby Steps, this is just the sequel to Getting Over It, so it's also another Australian developer. So just based on Metacritic, these are the ones, and I mean, you can almost just read these off verbatim. Like this one makes it, this one makes it, this one makes it, and this one makes it. Whether they put Despelete in there is like another thing. And then the ones that I'm like so unsure about, it's like Keep Driving's there, so it's like Look Outside. And this is the top 50 rated on Steam. And then this one is just the that have over 4,000 reviews, and that's it. This is the top 25. You can see Dispatch makes it into this list.
Best independent game, Absolem.
What?
Pit,
okay, that was on my list. That was okay.
Clair Obscur, Expedition 33, Hades 2,
okay, 3,
and Hollow Knight.
Okay, I got 4.
Silksong.
That is basically all of the categories. There's a lot of beautiful games this year, and it's such a stacked year just for gaming abroad. Like 2025 is really, really good. I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks all for tuning in.